as you know, with Azure Local, you can basically deploy local infrastructure, cloud connected, in your data center or edge location to run your specific virtualization, Kubernetes, or even Azure services on top of that. So this is obviously great. If you want to try this out, you can download it, you can deploy it on your own hardware or do a POC together with a hardware vendor. But if you don't have the hardware and you want to try it out or do some demos on it, we have built Jumpstart HCIBox, which basically helps you to deploy a virtual sandbox environment for Azure Local in Azure. And so basically you can without any hardware or local dependencies deploy this in an Azure environment and try it out, try the different features, try the look and feel of the UI, try what applications you can deploy, how it works, how the update process works, and much, much more. And then obviously once you're done, you can cleanly remove it from your Azure subscription as well. So this is what actually really Jumpstart HCIBox is all about, and it really helps you to quickly deploy that Azure Local environment. There's also like a ton of automation so that you don't need to touch a lot of this at all, but basically can really quickly go and dive into actually using Azure Local. So if you scroll down here on the Jumpstart website, you can go to Getting Started, and you will find a little bit more information on all the details about Azure Local and HCIBox and how this actually works. Again, right now, when we created this video, we support Azure Stack HCI OS version 23H2, which is GA at the moment, and this can be then deployed in this HCI Sandbox environment. And then you can deploy virtual machines, Kubernetes workloads with Arc-enabled Kubernetes on top of this, and many, many other things there as well. Now, again, the use cases for this are obviously just deploying a sandbox environment, helping with proof of concept, doing trainings and getting skills in terms of how to manage Azure Local. You can also use this as a demo environment if you use this for customers or present to partners or even at events. And then also for some who want to really automate and testing certain features or deployments on top of Azure Local, you can do that as well and build that all that automation. You can see here we have an architecture diagram of HCIBox, and what you can see here that it actually deploys a virtual network in Azure, and then on top of that a virtual machine in Azure, which then does use nested virtualization and deploys inside that virtual machine other machines for management, as well as like the actual HCI nodes in this case, or Azure Local nodes, instances here as well, which then they build a 2-node cluster, and top of that you have then all these specific management features where you can deploy your virtual machines, which are automatically Arc enabled, so you can, for example, then directly manage them using Azure Arc, and same thing for AKS on top of Azure Local as well, and then that all gets connected to the Azure control plane. So super easy to actually go. Everything again deployed in a resource group, so that once you're done, you can basically remove the resource group and all the resources go away with that as well. So again, you can find more information again of this 2-node Azure Local instance here. It will give you some more information on how the virtual machine management works, or the Azure Kubernetes service on top of Azure Local here as well. Now, that said, there is obviously some cost because it's a fairly large VM you're actually going to deploy. So if you want to learn more about the cost, we will just have a look at this as well. So we have some consumption checks here so that you can have a look on what would actually cost if I run this for a month or so as well. And then also here, like how the actual deployment flow goes, and we will run through this in another video as well. So to actually have this done, again, I want to quickly go back to the getting started part, or the overview part, I should say. And then if I go to cost consumption costs, this will bring me to the Azure pricing calculator, and you can see here we have one prepared for HCIBox, and then you can see here what it actually deploys. So it deploys a fairly large compute virtual machine here as pay-as-you-go solution, and then that's what it actually will cost. Now, to quickly remind you, this is obviously just the cost to run the virtual machine if you run it the whole time for the whole month 24/7. So by basically shutting it down or removing it, these costs will be fairly lower, obviously, if you just use it for a few hours or for a few minutes or even just a few days. So that's going to basically be, but we want to be very transparent on what this is, because again, it deploys a fairly large virtual machine there. There's also some frequently asked questions here. So what do you actually require? So obviously you need to have a subscription or resource group which you can actually deploy things on, where you have owner access, and then you need to have a service principal which actually has access to that resource group as well to go and deploy and build all the automation. Also, HCIBox can deploy it in several, obviously, Azure regions. There are some which are actually the tested ones, which we basically support in that case. So you can see here you have US, Australia, Canada, and West Europe as of today, right now, which you can actually go and deploy this as well. And then, of course, again, right now, you use, as I mentioned before, using 23H2 for the Azure Local deployment here. So again, the HCIBox, a great solution to build that sandbox environment for Azure Local, and we're going to have a look how you can use that in another video.